Hello, good evening. It's good to see you here. I'm Kemeni Amano. Let's bring you a look at what we'll have for you today. Tonight, renewed conflict in Bawku is driving essential service providers out of town, depriving residents of sometimes life-saving services. Also, new developments are emerging after tragic East Legon accident that killed two preteen girls. Tonight, the minor driver who was put before a judge spends his first night in custody. I'll explain the nature of his charges. But what you can expect also this evening is the Electoral Commission of Ghana being pleased with printing of ballot exercise as it opens to media cameras. But the NDC has new questions tonight. We'll let you in on surprising new details. This is Ghana Tonight. I'm so glad you're here with us. If you'd want to be a part of the program, interact with us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on X. Use the hashtag Ghana Tonight. Once you use that hashtag, your comments come to the top and we can read them in time. But how about I bring you a summary of the evening's top stories in Ghana Brief.
Residents of Bawku in the Upper East region are facing water shortage following the abandonment of operations by staff of the Ghana Water Company Limited over safety concerns. The staff of the company have been forced to flee the area as the worsening security situation poses danger to their lives. The abandonment has affected water supply to major parts of the municipality, with suburbs such as North and South Natenga, Patelmi, Sabonzongo being the hardest hit. Meanwhile, Agricultural Development Bank (ADB), the only bank left operating in the area, has also temporarily shut down its operations. The 16-year-old son of the founder and general overseer of the Alive Chapel International, Bishop Salifu Bawku, has been remanded into a Boston home after appearing before a juvenile court in Accra. He is to reappear before the court on November 7. The boy's parents have also been charged with permitting an unlicensed person to drive after he crashed into another vehicle, killing two 12-year-old girls. Prophet Salifu Bawku's son pleaded not guilty to 8 counts of charges for manslaughter, negligently causing harm, dangerous driving, and driving without a license. The Speaker of Parliament has issued a communique recalling members of Parliament to sit on Thursday, November 7. The Speaker said the recall is made pursuant to Article 112, Clause 3 of Ghana's Constitution and Standing Orders 5 and 53, allowing the Speaker to summon Parliament as needed in the public interest. The session will commence at 10 a.m. at the Accra International Conference Center, the temporary venue for parliamentary sittings while the main house undergoes renovations. This announcement follows Speaker Alban Bagban's decision to indefinitely adjourn parliamentary proceedings on Tuesday, October 22, after a contentious day in the chamber. The Electoral Commission has expressed confidence in the ongoing ballot printing process for the upcoming December elections. Director of Electoral Services, Dr. Benjamin Banobio, led a team of journalists on a tour of selected printing facilities, assuring the public of a smooth and transparent operation.
When you say accountability and transparency in motion, you don't just say it, but we mean it. It's so transparent.
The Ewutu-Senya East Municipal Health Directorate in the Central Region has confirmed 30 cases of cholera, with 5 people reported dead. The Health Directorate is intensifying efforts to contain spread of the disease.
Ghana Brief there for you. If you just joined us, you are in time for all our big conversations tonight. Let's get into it. Minor driver who killed two 12-year-old girls comes face to face with justice. What happened? Right now. Bishop Elisha Salifo Amwako's son earlier today came face to face with the gravity of his offences when he appeared before a juvenile court in the last few hours. The 16-year-old son of the founder and general overseer of Alive Chapel International appeared on 4 charges, including manslaughter for the killing of two 12-year-old girls when the car he was driving without license crashed into another vehicle. Tonight, the young Amwako will spend some time in state custody pending his rearraignment on November 7. The questions are there, I know. What are the charges? What could the pursuit of justice look like with a minor involved? I tell you. Well, not me. Dennis Porberry, my producer and lawyer, has been studying the documents the police released in the last few hours of the night to help us answer some of these questions. Dennis, good evening to you.
Good evening, Cam.
Well, anyway.
Yes, so the police...
4 charges, isn't it?
Yes. So let's start with the charges, actually, before we come to the updates that the police have been giving us. So these are the charges that have been leveled against the minor, the young man.
Right.
One is manslaughter contrary to Section 50 of the Criminal Offences Act, Act 29. Negligently causing harm contrary to Section 72 of the Criminal Offences Act. Dangerous driving contrary to Section 11C and D of the Road Traffic Act 2004. And then driving without a license contrary to Section 53(1) of the Road Traffic Act 2004. So beyond this, which we have gleaned from the charge sheet, the police have also been giving us an update as to what has become of the young man now. And they say the 16-year-old suspect driver involved in the fatal East Legon accident, which occurred on October 12, claiming lives of 2 people, has been remanded into custody by the Accra Juvenile and Family Court. What is of importance is the fact that the suspect was put before court today, 1st November. Now, this is important because when you look at juvenile offences and the procedure that is adopted in dealing with such cases, it's quite different. And of course, the juvenile offences, the Juvenile Justice Act specifically says that juveniles should be handled differently from adults.
Absolutely.
This day is important because what it means is that time begins to run with respect to the trial. So that if after 6 months they are unable to complete the case or they're unable to dispose of the case, it means that the offender or the accused person in this case would have to be discharged.
Which means
that he cannot be arrested on the same set of facts.
I see. Which means that the police is racing against time right now.
Yes, so prosecution actually is racing against time. And not just prosecution, the courts too would also have to play a part in all of this. But this is very important.
Indeed, which means also that, you know, the wheel of justice cannot be grinding as slow as we usually say. Not in this particular case.
Not at all.
When does the 6 months start to count?
So it begins the first time the accused person or the suspect in this case, they describe him as a suspect. Now he's been officially charged, so he becomes an accused person. That's 1st November. So this is the first time he's been put before court.
6 months from now, the case should have concluded.
Should be completed. Else, he has to be discharged.
I see. And then also, you explained earlier to me the constitution of the court that can hear this case involving a minor. Talk to us about that.
So a juvenile court basically is composed differently. So you have a magistrate and then 2 other persons, one of whom must be a social welfare officer. And then the other person will be someone who is above 25 years of age. Those people are appointed by the Chief Justice on the recommendation of the Director of the Social Welfare. So that's panel, if I may put it that way, would be those to look into that particular matter. So when you come to matters that have to do with juveniles, it's quite a sensitive matter because the law requires that they should be dealt with in a special way. One is because the law especially states that the welfare of the juvenile should be of paramount interest to anybody who's dealing with them.
Right.
And that is because they want them to be protected, that, I mean, they are still children in the eyes of the law. This person, we are told, is 16 years. You would even realize that even within the range of juveniles or young or people who fall below 18. You have those who fall below 16. They are treated differently. Right. There are those who are 16 but less than 18, and there are the young offenders who are 18, more than 18 and less than 21. However, there are also things that may be of interest when it comes to juvenile justice.
Right.
Now, there are certain punishments that cannot be attributed to a juvenile. And I keep using a juvenile because a juvenile simply means a young offender. And
this is despite the gravity of the offense?
Yes. However, there are other exceptions, but we'll see if this would fall under any of the exceptions. So when it comes to, when you look at Section 32 of the Juvenile Justice Act, it talks about prohibition of certain forms of punishment. It says that a juvenile offender shall not be sentenced to imprisonment by a juvenile court or a court of summary jurisdiction. So what it means is that generally, you cannot sentence a juvenile to imprisonment. He can only be sentenced to detention.
Which is usually the Boston homes?
Yes, it used to be Boston homes. Now we call them correctional centers, either junior or senior correctional centers, depending on the age.
Indeed.
The other thing is that a death sentence shall not be pronounced or even recorded against a juvenile offender. This is the case where the penalty of the offense ordinarily should have been death. But this would not apply in the case that we are dealing with. Now, the exception created is that where it is a serious offense, because the law acknowledges that not all offenses are the same. So when it's a serious offense, then it treats them differently.
Right.
Now, these are the serious offenses that have been listed: murder, rape, defilement, indecent assault involving unlawful arms, robbery with aggravated circumstances, drug offenses, and offenses related to firearms.
Well, I don't see manslaughter or driving without authorization.
So it means that the case we are dealing with does not fall under the category of serious offenses.
Based on the law?
Based on the law. That's what the law says. And basically, that's, yes. And now, so when this person is detained, mind you, when they're using detention here, when you imagine it in the terms of the regular trials, this ordinarily should have been the sentencing, or if like imprisonment. So when they're detaining juveniles, that where a juvenile or young offender is ordered to be sent to a center, the detention order shall be the authority for the detention, and the period shall not exceed. Now pay attention to this one. 3 months for a juvenile offender under the age of 16. But we are dealing with somebody who is 16.
Who's 16.
Let's see what the law says about that. That's 6 months for a juvenile offender or above 16 years, but under 18 years. The suspect we are dealing with, or the accused now, as we are dealing with, falls under this age range. So, per the law, he could only do 6 months.
Right.
That out of 24 for a young offender, and a young offender, like I explained earlier, is someone who is above 18 years and below 21 years. 3 years for a serious offense. I showed you the serious offenses. What it means is that if we are dealing with somebody who had committed a serious offense, that person could go as high as 3 years for a serious offense.
I see.
We do not see that the person in question here is dealing with, comes under the serious offenses, so we can only limit ourselves to this particular one.
Could, prosecution decide to try the accused person as an adult in any case at all? Is that permissible in our law?
Yes, it's permissible under exceptional circumstances again. And there's a typical example of what we just dealt with in the Kaswa case, where there were two charged together. The other one was an adult, the other was a minor. In such an instance, they would try the two of them as though they were adults. However, when it comes to sentencing, and that's how, when we came to the Kaswa case, the day they were convicted, only the adult was sentenced. They had to remit the juvenile to the juvenile court for them to do the sentencing. And when they are doing the sentencing, they come back to the detention I showed you earlier. 3 months for 16 less than 18, and all that range. So yes, and this is the part I was talking about, expeditious hearing, that the case of a juvenile charged with an offense before a juvenile court shall be dealt with expeditiously, and if the case is not completed within 6 months of the juvenile's first appearance in court is today, the juvenile shall be discharged and is not liable for any further proceedings in respect of the same offenses. There's a lot to be said about juvenile justice.
Absolutely.
It's a special area and a delicate area for that matter. But let's leave it at this.
Indeed, we will. Thank you so much, Dennis. Dennis Poberi is my producer here on Ghana Tonight. He's been sharing details of what the pursuit of justice could look like for these young, for this young man whose actions led to the deaths of two 12-year-old girls. He's explained to us why this trial needs to move fast, because based on the law that surrounds juvenile prosecution, the constituted court or prosecution needs to be done within a period of 6 months for the age range of the accused person in question. Tonight, we know that when the case was called in juvenile court, the court decided that the young man should be taken to Junior Correctional Center to await his rearrangement on November 7, which is where we'll bring you more details when he reappears in juvenile court again. But that's it for that story. We want to turn attention up north right now, because residents in Bawku are at risk of losing essential services as businesses close shop to avoid being caught in conflict amid rising tensions there. Let's get into that right now. Tonight, essential service providers are steadily abandoning Bawku in the Upper East region. ADB, the loan banking service or bank offering services to the community for the past year, has now closed shop. ADB's exit of the highly tense area comes only days after the Chief Justice shut down judicial services there. Our correspondents report the nearest bank for residents could be at least 2 hours away. Tonight, ADB, in its farewell message to customers, referred them to transact business using their online platforms. But also tonight, residents in Bawku or in the Bawku area are grappling with water shortage after staff of the Ghana Water Company also exited the area. Communities affected the most include those in North and South Natinga, Patelmi, Sabon Zongo, and and the likes. Now, some of the residents have been speaking to TV3. Let's take a listen to them as they recount how difficult life is without water. Indeed, you could hear some of these residents explain to us, how difficult life has been for them without water, with all these essential services leaving or exiting their communities because of the conflict there. I want us to take a listen to those, and then we'll speak to our correspondent.
The type is not flowing, the water is not coming. We are fetching wall water, the water too is no good.
Well, that truncates it earlier than I thought, but we'll fix that problem and bring you more later. But all these service providers have one common concern: the state of security. Now, let's check the pulse of the area now. Castro Senyala is reporter on the ground. Castro, 6 to 6 p.m. curfew on the communities. I can imagine that there's a semblance of calm tonight. Is that the case?
Right, Camille, you are right. There's a bit of calm and serenity in the Bawku township. I just returned from somewhere closer where I usually go to monitor the happenings in Bawku, and I can report that calm is there. The security agencies made up of the military and the police are also on the ground with increased efforts as far as patrolling and responding to distress calls is concerned.
I see. Beneath that calm, we know that there are those rising tensions community to community, which is why these companies are exiting. Now, tell us a bit more about these companies who are exiting and how it's impacting lives there.
Right, Camille, you see, most of these companies have people living and working there from all over the place, irrespective of the tribes or whatsoever. And so when tensions are heightened and the fights begin, it becomes a very volatile area for some of these people. And then also, if you take the case of the Ghana Water Company Limited workers, for instance, even though they are an essential service provider, workers would sometimes have to go to certain areas most of the time, major suburbs where the fights are ongoing, and they have valves there they need to shut or open. And when instances like that happen, they are left with no other option than to protect themselves against, these fights where they can't go, because if they do, their lives would be at stake. Also, we have companies like ADB, which has also just announced that they are exiting the area temporarily because of the security situation. Some of these facilities or companies are sited in areas where the fights are intense. And, sometimes the gunshots or the gunfire is sporadic, such that you can't, tell whether you are safe or not. The best is to get to a safer place where you know that you won't be caught up in the fight. And so these are some of the concerns of these workers in the area. And for them, the best is to evacuate as earlier as possible. We also understand that some people who are even not workers, but are traders or going about duties on trading activities in the market, are also left with no other choice but to evacuate for safety reasons. And so it's not only with companies or bigger companies, but also individuals who are beginning to feel threatened, because the security situation there is worsening by the day, even though security agencies are doing the best, but it appears that so much needs to be done.
Listen, Castro, on the subject of water, I know you've been sniffing around local authorities. What have they been telling you about alternatives for people in these communities?
Kemini, local authorities are very careful to speak on the issues of Bawku because they are very dicey. You might say something and then you inflame tensions, and so for that matter, they would always confine in us and not to speak publicly. But local authorities say they are doing their best, because it's worrisome that residents have had to resort to unsafe water sources to be able to live by the day. You can imagine 5 days going to a week without water. Some residents who I continue to speak with and engage tell me that they have had to resort to fetching water from ponds and wells that had been abandoned because they had safe sources of water. And now that the situation is persistent, they've had to return to these sources of water, which is very worrying. They can't do much with that in terms of cooking, washing, cleaning, and even drinking. And so it's a problem. Now, I've been speaking to authorities, like I stated, who wouldn't want to speak because it's very dicey, but they tell me that they are responding to the distress calls for the availability for water to be available for these people. And we are continuing to engage in them.
I see. Castro, just hang on for me. I want to bring in Dr. Victor Doke, who is a security consultant and a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Doc, good evening to you. I'm going to put you on the back burner just for a tad while I finish with our correspondent, but thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Castro, listen, when we zoom out and we'll look at the issues, one of the things we'll be concerned with outside of the immediate security and concerns of residents will be the constituencies within that area. I want to show that to our viewers now so we see the number of constituencies that could be affected if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture of whether or not these people could be disenfranchised. We have Binduri, Pusega, Bawku Central, Zebula, Bongo, and we know there are excesses overflowing into Bolga. So there's Bolgatanga Central, Bolga East, Bulsa North and South, Shianapaga, and Garu. These areas are also likely to be caught in the situation in the Bawku area at the moment. But I want to talk to you about this situation, because then there are those who are also very concerned about the political underlinings there. What do residents tell you, really?
Kevin, the fears of residents as far as voting is concerned is that they don't want the situation to reach a level where a state of emergency be called in the area, and that would mean disenfranchising them when it comes to the elections on December 7th. They are concerned that if these fights continue to persist, government and especially will not have any option than to declare a state of emergency, and that would mean they won't be able to choose leaders for the next government, which is very much of a concern. But in all, they are hopeful that very soon the state with its actors, such as the military and the police and other state security agencies, will be able to quickly bring this conflict to a closure by engaging the feuding factions to finding a lasting solutions to the problem.
Kashra, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining us. We can now bring in again Dr. Victor Doke, security consultant. Doc, good evening to you. And thank you once again thank you once again for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. We're seeing some of these essential services packing bags and leaving. Normal response to a situation like this?
Well, thank you very much. I think in a normal situation like this, you would obviously have people or services, institutions fearing for the lives of the workers and even their own lives. But in this situation, with this kind of emergency situation we have in Bawku, it is not right. I would say the services, essential services like water, they should take a second look at the situation on pulling out, because water is an essential commodity. Now, take for instance, you have even a refugee camp. We know how essential water is with regards to, persons of concern, let alone you have an area, vast like Bawku, where people are going to rely on water for farming, for domestic use and other services, even in the hospitals. What if there is an outbreak of a disease? What then happens? So I think they should take a second look at it. With regards to billing and all that, as I heard earlier on in the discussion, I think the billing and all that can be done easily. With regards to just giving them a quota as they've been paid in the past or whatever, reading the meters for fear of life, I don't think it's necessary now. They can just give them the quota to be paying every month. But I think water is essential. The people need the water.
But byproducts of situations like this are, what we see, essential services attempting to leave this community for their own safety. Would expect the government of the day then to be able to reach out to the people and help them, the best way possible. What are the expectations you have of government and the security agencies now that we know there is, water shortage in certain areas?
Yeah, so now this incident, the aftermath of Mr. Seidu entering into Bawku, the consequences we've seen, services closing up, all of this tells us, when you analyze it clearly, that there is a big challenge with regards to how government or central government is handling the issue, either through the chieftaincy ministry, through the National Peace Council or the security services. There is what I call the lack of contingency plan, an emergency plan with regards to solving the immediate issue, which is how do we bring some relative peace there with regards to the said gentleman in there right now. So government is aware. When I heard the chieftaincy minister speaking, he made mention for the fact that the said gentleman in there would mean that there won't be peace, because Kusasis will not agree with regards to the said gentleman being there. And now, how do you even go to convince the said gentleman to come out of Bawku? It will take another step or process, right? So now what the government needs to do is to come out clearly, through the chieftaincy ministry or the National Peace Council. Let's have a roadmap. First of all, how do we convince the said Seidu that his presence in Bawku means no end to violence? That is the first step. Then you can now continue from where you left off with regards to resolution aspects or even addressing the conflict itself. Other than that, we'll be running in circles. Let's not forget the resources that are being spent for these security services in there, the amount of money that is being spent on them for the peacekeeping aspect and all that. It is very worrying. So I think I plead the state institutions, the heads should rally round, get to the table, get the essential stakeholders involved, and then call this said gentleman and I let him know his presence there would mean there's not going to be an end to the chaos that we are experiencing. And if we want to address address what actually is a problem, then we should start with that.
You know, at the moment, we know that there's a 6 to 6 curfew there. From where you sit, for how long do you think this would work?
Yeah, so Kimani, the issue is, you see, from when have we heard about curfews being imposed, the issues about deployment and all of that? You see, we see this mechanism as sort of the only way that the central government is comfortable with. Yes, it is essential that when you have clashes, you send in the troops, okay, in there, and then to curb the clashes. But this in itself is only a direct prevention measure. It is supposed to address the immediate, okay, imminent, crisis, which has been done. Now, when you're talking about the other structural preventive mechanisms, you're supposed to be engaging, sustained engagement with the two sides, okay? Either through eminent people or what about the Inter-Ethnic Peace Committee that has been established? Okay, we are not talking about it. I don't know whether it's still active or not. That committee was set up specifically to look at this specific issue. Okay, they have members from both sides. They have CSOs, Builder, who is a peace building facilitator, okay, who liaises with the committee, the government, National Peace Council, and all stakeholders that are relevant to this particular issue. So with curfews, yes, it's only just temporal. But the core issue with regards to the chieftaincy, with regards to the Mampusis agreeing that with regards to the chieftaincy, if there is any issue, there is a process. You can channel it through the litigation, and then you can talk about the others. But the curfew itself doesn't resolve a conflict such as this.
I see. Once again, I want to, zoom out of this just a little bit. For those who have questioned the timing of the resurrection of this conflict in Bawku, one of the secondary collateral concerns they have had is that possible disenfranchisement of people there. The Electoral Commission will find itself in a very tricky situation if the next 34 or so days, there isn't a concrete plan to be able to figure out what to do for the people in that area and its environs. What are you seeing from a security perspective around the elections there?
Well, it's two things. Number one, now, you talk about essential services withdrawing. Now, what about the EC officials also, right? They would also fear for their lives, hence wouldn't like to, put themselves in the front line like that. Now, even if, let's see this scenario, even if you deploy as much as you want the troops, okay, to foresee that there's peace on election day, you're talking about these two ethnic groups and other ethnic groups coming out, right, on that voting day. You would have them queue in one line, go through the process and then cast their ballot. Now, are you going to ask them to go home after casting their ballot? Okay, thereby it raises questions about transparency and all that. Yes, you have party agents, but by and large, we know the custom that has come with regards to elections. You cast your ballot, and then people wait to see the counting and all of that. Now, you could have a system where you deploy, you give the people the opportunity to cast their ballot, and then you ask them to go back for fear that maybe declarations of results may cause another crisis. So you have to sensitize them on that for them to understand. So only core essential party agents will be there. The other scenario, what I see is, one, we get a said gentleman out of Bawku. We explain to him These are the reasons why we want you to just step aside for a moment. Let's have the elections so that people will not be disenfranchised. Okay, we look at that. Other than that, then what I see is that one, when we are nearing the D-Day itself, it will be difficult. And that is why I mentioned that what is the contingency plan, which includes all of this. How do we ensure, how does the EC ensure that the people in Bawku cast their ballots? And we all know the perceptions surrounding the two ethnic groups. It is perceived Kusasi are aligned to the NDC, it is perceived the Mampusis are aligned to the NPP. So who benefits and who loses? And this is the tough situation that we find ourselves in as a country, as institutions. So I think the way forward.
And indeed, you know, considering how people can be impassioned about their political alignment, this could even inflate the conflict a bit more, couldn't it?
Exactly. Now, in the history past with regards to the conflict, we've had, you know, violent clashes because of the elections. I think in 2000 or so, thereabouts, if I may be right. Now, these clashes stemmed up because of declaration of results. Okay, so you can't have a repetition whereby now the dynamics of politics has changed, especially when you have the linkage between politics and chieftaincy, which is very, 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 very serious. So we have a serious crisis on our hands. Not just security, we're talking about humanitarian crisis, apart from security, and then political crisis. So the onus now lies on the state institutions, the EC, security services, central government, to come together and then put out a very comprehensive contingency plan. So we can see the people in Bawku, you know, voting on that set day without any kind of, you know, problems. It will be tough, it will be challenging, but I think if we are able to come up with a good, you know, contingency plan, we'll be able to surmount.
Indeed, and you know, and history tells us that we haven't really pulled our weight when it comes to dealing with the humanitarian crisis aspect of the conflict that has plagued Bawku for a very long time. But look at this. We have what appears to be a lack of contingency, an emergency response plan. We have the simmering tensions on one hand. We also, you know, we are now faced with what appears to be a retrogression of all the progress that has been made in dealing with the conflict in Bawku. Listen, if we put all of these together, we seem to have a keg of gunpowder, pun unintended, to go off. What could we be up against if the situation persists?
If the situation persists, trust me, then you're going to have a prolonged conflict associated with armed violence, associated with more casualties and deaths, which state institutions and the central government will not have any solution to. And what will happen is that the town will be isolated. There will be no services there. Okay? Essential services will pull out. Eventually, everything will be standstill for the people there. You will have mass migration of people from that area into the urban center. And what happens then? Okay, we are talking about, you know, pressure on already less or scarce resources that we are having here. And that also brings conflict in itself. So the town will be deserted. Nothing will go on until we look at what others, including myself, have proposed with regards to the gentleman's do and then the process itself.
Absolutely. Indeed, hopefully, you know, this is solved, you know, quicker and in a better way. Thank you so much for talking to us. Dr. Victor Doke is a security analyst. He's also a lecturer, consultant, excuse me. He's also a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping and Training Center. We've been talking about Bawku, but we can now turn attention to other issues. The Electoral Commission and the NDC spar over transparency of ballot printing exercise as the largest opposition party raises fresh concerns. More on that right now. Now, tonight, the Electoral Commission says it is satisfied with the ballot printing exercise for the 2024 parliamentary elections. The EC earlier today took some journalists on a tour to 3 of 6 printing houses contracted to provide services for the December 7th elections. The tour to Bawku, InnoLink, and Acts Commercial comes barely 24 hours after NDC agent supervisor for ballot printing, Richard Jakpa, leveled numerous allegations, including overprinting for some regions. Tonight, the party is also questioning EC's decision to limit the number of party agents to observe the exercise. Now, the EC in the 2020 elections allowed 2 party representatives as observers. But this year, the commission has reduced the number by half. Now, the NDC has given the sheer volume of work required. 1 agent is not enough. That's what the NDC says. Now, listen, I want to show you the, first off, let's take a look at, those are the NDC concerns, but I want to show us the printing houses that are working in this exercise. Bawku Limited, that's the one that was visited today. Assembly Press, Ghana Publishing Company, Acts Commercial Limited, Phonestart Limited, Yasako Limited, which is now being replaced, InnoLink and Checkpoint Limited. So now there are 6 in all. Remember that Yasako, I believe, was replaced with Bawku Limited. Now let's move on to the concerns of the NDC. They've talked about overprinting of excess ballot papers in NDC and NPP strongholds, as well as home regions of NDC and NPP flag bearers, like the Savannah and Northeast regions. The NDC also says more than 3,000 excess ballots are being printed. And then also 1 party agent as an observer is not enough, which I told you already. They are concerned also about quality assurance problems. So how about we try and understand the nature of the problems that the NDC is raising against the Electoral Commission's latest exercise. Richard Jakpa is joining me now. He's the NDC agent's supervisor for the printing of ballot for the election 2024. Good evening to you, Richard. I appreciate you talking to us tonight. But first, tell us the NDC concerns regarding the printing exercise. We've had a cursory look at those concerns outlined, but really, you know your concerns. Explain them to us.
Are you saying I should reiterate my concerns?
No, I'm not asking for a reiteration. I'm asking you to explain, where are you getting these concerns from? For instance, you talk about overvoting. Where is that from? Oh, excuse me, overprinting. Where is that from?
Overprinting? I think you are misconstruing what I said, where you got your information from.
Right. So then,
what I said was that
you know what, Richard? Let's scratch it. What are the concerns?
Good. The concerns are that our agents for the various printing houses are inadequate. Judging from the volume of work that is at each of the printing houses, the various phases of printing that are in each printing houses, and the way they have been, the printing houses operational, the printing rooms have been sectorized. It's virtually humanly impossible for one person to cover all the facets of printing and be able to check for anything that is untoward. And those are our concerns. And this is completely different from previous printing, where the EC allowed minimum of 2 agents per shift. We run 3 shifts per day because the printing houses, when they start printing, they print for 24 hours non-stop. Mm-hmm. So you need 3 shifts to be able to monitor all the printing to protect your interest. Because in this game, there's no trust. It's about checks and balances. So now if you decide to reduce our agents from 2 to 1, and then the machines they are printing the ballots. After printing, they move a constituency that they've printed to serializing, which is a different machine in another different place, even though in the same building, but in a different section. Whilst you are serializing those that you've already printed for a particular constituency, another constituency printing has also started by the printer again. So printing for one constituency, serializing for one constituency is going on simultaneously. Then the one that is finished, the machine that finishes with the serializing, they move it to go and do cutting, sorting, binding, all those other processes. They are all going on. One human being can monitor all because they're in different places within the printing house. So there are loopholes created. But if there were 2, as has been was going on, the 2 of them, they can monitor properly. If one is to go and urinate, another one is there as a backup to check. If one is to go and eat, another person is inside there as a backup. If a supervisor arrives and he calls one of the agents to come out for briefing from the printing room to come to the reception or car park for briefing, there's one inside there as a backup. But EC decided to take that backup out and make it 1-1, stressing the agent and creating loopholes. Yet our opponents, because they are in government and they have state institutions behind them, you've given all of us 1-1 agent, but they have a backup of bringing national security operatives. 2 from national security, 2 from BNI, formal and now NIB, formal of BNI.
And what did they come there to do?
That is the question you must be asking the EC. And these people, so in total, there are 4 per shift, added to the 1 agent of MPP, making it 5.
I see. Maybe they are there for your
change.
It would seem so. You're shortchanged, you say, but perhaps these national security operatives are there for the protection of all present at that printing house.
Okay, I'll answer that question. What you are talking about, I'll clarify it for you. They are not there for any protection because in this game, there are 4 stakeholders. 1, the police for security, and they come armed, and they are neutral body. They come for security for the printing, to protect everybody, and they are the primary institution for that job, followed by the printing house, followed by the political parties, and then the EC itself. So there are 4 stakeholders in this printing business all over the years. Good. Now you decide to come and be smart enough to reduce our agents to 1, create loopholes, and then you back the government by agreeing to let them bring national security and BNI to back them up. So in the printing room, they have these 2 institutions who have more personnel than the stakeholders themselves.
I see.
You see, and you and I know very well that it is a political party that forms a government. And
right,
what is amazing to me,
I hear what is amazing to you, but what problems does that cause for you? Tell us how it makes your work difficult.
While we are handicapped and loopholes are created, they have enough men pursuing the same political and power agenda to cover their loopholes, so the battlefield is not leveled.
Right.
For instance, if an MPP supervisor comes and calls his agent out of the printing room, the BNI and national security operatives are there to cover them up for any loophole, for anything that happens inside. If they are to go and urinate or go and eat, which they cannot do it inside the printing house, and the man has to go out, they have BNI and national security operatives inside there to cover their government interests. And not let nobody deceive you that government is different from MPP.
Very well.
It's no different from
Richard,
NPP. It's the same party that forms the government.
Richard.
So we are saying that level the playing field.
Very well.
Let's
Richard,
have two
yes, hold your fire for me. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll conclude this conversation. You don't go away.
The 5 kg of rice has moved from 25 cedis to 165. Oh.
Hey! Boss, cement moved from 24 cedis to 105 cedis now.
Hey! The kenke is 5 cedis. The fish, I have 10, 15, and 20 cedis. Which one do you want?
Hey!
Stop the A.
Hey!
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
I'm a Ghanaian and I love luxury accredited. And I love democracy.
December 7th, Ghana is voting.
Only peace. Peace, I give it to you all.
I love Ghana.
Peaceful election before, during, and after.
One Ghana.
Peace. Peace to everybody.
One Ghana. Ghana Bawku.
This message brought to you from the luxury accredited.
Champion. Nana, who are you voting for this year?
How about area? As for this question, you need not ask. John Mahama and the NDC, of course. Who else? You know there should be a change. Maybe I should have brought my to
Nana, born before computer.
Yeah,
do you still remember how to vote?
I am so sharp. On December 7th, when I get to my police station, I'll take my voter's ID card to the EC officer. He will check, find my name, and give me a ballot paper. I'll inspect the ballot paper and make sure the EC stamp is at the back with no other markings around it. When I get to the box, I will just inspect the paper again, search for the umbrella. I will just put my thumb in the ink pad and stamp the empty box just by the umbrella, not on the line or Mohammed's face, but in the empty box just by the umbrella. Then I clean my hand, fold my ballot paper vertically and horizontally, and drop it straight into the presidential box.
Nana, well done.
On the parliamentary candidate, I'll just stamp my hand in the empty box just by the umbrella. Now I'm done. Give it back.
Hey, na.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior. You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
My life wasn't always like this. I worked in a bank and had money in bonds to cushion me for the future. Then, with a stroke of a pen, my life was destroyed. My bank was part of the 420 financial institutions which the MPP government recklessly collapsed. What was to become the life of the workers? No one in this insensitive government cared. And suddenly, I was jobless. Their incessant borrowing also led to a debt restructuring program that affected me, and just like that, a significant portion of my lifetime investment vanished. Even worse, my lifetime savings from 30 years of hard work has been rendered useless due to the continuous depreciation of the cedi and extremely high cost of living in the country. Now, look at me. The fruit of my toil and sweat have all gone down the drain because of bad leadership. What to eat with my children is even a struggle. God, help me and the many who share in my pain. Let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end. Change must come.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
This October to December, King's Furniture says, thank you, Ghana. Enjoy a whopping 25% off on all our domestic kitchen, wardrobes, and sofas. Upgrade your home with the finest furniture, crafted right here in Ghana. And for your office, we're offering 20% discount on all office furniture because your workspace deserves the best. Whether it's for home or office, now's the time to make your space truly yours and give the gift of comfort and style to your loved ones. Hooray! Promo is from October 1st and ends December 31st, 2024. Visit King's Furniture Showroom today and enjoy these incredible discounts. Locate us in Accra, Kisema, adjacent Melco, and Takrade, Tanokrum, Pipeline, right opposite Connect FM, or call us on 050-150-5507 Accra and 050-133-2327. King's Furniture sets a standard. And a big thank you to Ghana.
Papa Sammy, I beg if you find something small, give us.
Bro Sammy, you see, nobody say boys no one do nothing and just they rely on handouts. Jobs to no deal.
I understand your hassle. Hope they come. John Mahama they come do the National Apprenticeship Program where he go sort you guys.
Brother Sammy, wait till be that.
John Mahama knows say no be everybody way won't work for office.
Like me.
That one day is true.
Under the National Apprenticeship Program, young men and women where they won't learn craft will be enrolled under the program and attached to a senior craftsman who will train them for free.
I beg you, mechanic day inside. Me like this, I don't want to learn mechanical, but the course no.
Mechanics day inside. Organizing, dressmaking, fabric making, catering, hairdressing, tiling, painting. What they even sweet about this whole thing is say when you plead, the NDC government go make sure say they go give you certificate where you go fit take go look for job anywhere.
That's sweet. Oh, that's be one waffle.
Another one waffle thing be say when you plead, the NDC government go set you up with startup capital and equipment to make sure you can start your own business.
Wow! I dey go shopping my town wait 7th December.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
Welcome back to Ghana Tonight. Let's wrap it up with Richard Jakpa, who's been raising concerns on behalf of the NDC regarding the ongoing ballot printing exercise. Richard, you were making the point about how it would appear that there's no level play field despite the Electoral Commission's decision that there should be one agent per party. Has this come to the notice of the Electoral Commission? Because they say that the process is very transparent.
Yes, it has gotten to their notice because I confronted Mr. Asante Kisi about it, Mr. Kisi about it, and his excuse was that he wanted to decongest the printing house, the printing floor, and that's why he reduced it from 2 to 1, and that the previous ones were a convention and it is not a law. So what you're trying to tell me is that it's a convention, it's not binding.
I see.
So he can change it as and when See, let me give you an example. As I'm talking to you now, I'm talking to you from InnoLink. I'm talking to you from InnoLink boardroom. That's why I'm sitting right now talking to you. And this afternoon, they were doing bargain in their vault. And when they are doing bargain, it means they are bagging all the booklets that they have finished printing and ready to be sent to the regions. Now, our single agent had to go into the vault. He was there for hours. They are counting the 50 booklets the 100 booklets, the 25 booklets, the 10 booklets into a bag for each constituency, and then they will seal it, pack them down for easy to move them to the regions. The man was inside the vault for hours alone. Whilst he was in the vault, which is outside the printing floor where the machines are, it's in also, the vault is in a different compartment, different section, locked. When you enter there, you can't come out. Whilst he's there doing that work, they are printing ballot papers, serializing them, cutting them, sorting them. Everything was going down the machine room, while the man was not there for hours because he cannot divide himself into two. So whilst he was in the vault doing that bargain and was there with the MPP agents and the other party agents, the National Security and BNI, they were down there. So whatever they are colluding with the printers to do, my agent will not be able to see because he's not there. That is what I mean by deliberately orchestrated to create loopholes so that they can exploit. And that's why they brought the National Security and BNI operatives there. And those people, they don't even carry name tags. Only lamination they've hung on their neck. No name, no picture.
Richard, I'm afraid we'll have to end our conversation here. Let's pick it up again. We'll put a pin in it, pick it up again tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Richard Jakpa is NDC agent supervisor for the printing of ballot for the 2024 general elections. It's time for me to go. Remember that Key Points begins at 7 a.m. tomorrow. At 2 p.m. on Sunday, join my conversation with First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Osei-Wusu. We talked about the Supreme Court versus Parliament, debacle we face right now. We also talked about the Techiman South incident, the fact that there hasn't been conclusion up until now. Explosive interview. I say that all the time, and I mean it all the time. So make sure you tune in to Hot Issues Sunday, 2 p.m. But what happens when your member of parliament wants to drop a single? Good night. Take a look.